Welcome to Sane-ish, the podcast for people healing from trauma, addiction, abuse, mental health struggles, grief, narcissists, and every other flavor of chaos life can throw at you. And somehow still functioning, mostly. I'm your host, Holley Broughton, survivor, truth teller, boundary setter, and proud member of the Still Healing, Still Hilarious Club. Around here, we don't do shame or embarrassment. We don't do perfection. Just real talk, dark humor, hard truths, and a whole lot of hope. Because sanity is overrated. And healing, that shit is messy. This is Sane-ish. Let's get into it. Disclaimer. On the Sane-ish Podcast, we discuss personal stories of alcoholism, addiction, mental health, chronic illness, narcissistic abuse, domestic violence, SA, HT, parental alienation, grief, loss, homelessness, as well as many other forms of adversities in life. Our intention is to be inspirational, educational, identifiable, and resourceful. The views and experiences shared are in no way meant to praise or condone any illegal or harmful behavior. This content is for educational purposes only and not intended as professional advice. If you or someone you know is struggling with any of the above, we strongly suggest seeking help from a qualified professional, support service, or hotline related to your specific issue. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Sane-ish Podcast. It's Holley Broughton. And today on the show, we have Valerie Milburn with us from the podcast Mental Health, Hope, and Recovery. It is an award-winning podcast that Valerie has with her friend Helen Sneed, and the podcast has been going on now for 5 years, and I'm very honored that she said yes. She is a local friend of mine who on this podcast, they specifically talk about mental health. And as many of you know, I am dual diagnosed, meaning I have substance abuse challenges as well as mental health challenges, which is considered dual diagnosed. And as she is too, and she agreed to come on the show and talk about her story as well as answering some questions. And so I'm very grateful that she said yes. So we'll talk about that. And I believe it's a hot topic to talk about because I feel there are many people out there who struggle with these things and they feel like they're alone. And I do know that, there are people out there who, especially young people in our local area who deal with this type of dual diagnosis issue and probably need to hear this topic. So anyway, without further ado, welcome Valerie to Sane-ish. Glad you're here. Glad you joined us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here. It's always lovely to be a guest on somebody's podcast because I'm usually the one bringing guests on, and it's just an honor for somebody to ask me to be on their podcast. So thanks.
Well,
and I
thank
also am so happy to be here to talk about dual diagnosis, and it's great to have you, Holley, be able to relate to me on the same level as somebody who has a dual diagnosis and lives with one and also lives in recovery. And so we can relate on that, and I think it's going to make for a great conversation.
Yeah, me too, because I think there's a lot of people out there who kind of feel alone, and it's not anything to be ashamed of.
Right.
As long as more people know that there are other people out there walking with it too, it's easier to deal with.
Yes.
So thank you for for being here. And it's an honor to have an award-winning podcaster on here. So thank you. So let's
Sure.
get started. Why don't we start from the beginning and tell us where you were born and what kind of family you grew up in and where it all started.
Can do that. I was born in New Orleans. I was raised as a transplanted Texan because my parents moved there when they were pregnant with me after having their first 4 kids in Dallas and Houston. So, therefore, I am obviously the 5th kid, the 5th of 6. And we were raised in a pretty chaotic household because with 6 kids, my dad traveled. He was gone 5 weeks out of 6. And my mom not only worked full time, but she was always in school. In fact, she ended up with 5 degrees and always working, always being in school. And my dad being gone most of the time pretty much left us to raise ourselves. I think my mom liked to believe that the older ones were raising the younger ones, but with 6 of us born within 10 years, the older ones really weren't that much older than the youngest ones. And it was pretty crazy place to live. It was a household full of rage and hysteria. And I've always been, well, now I've learned how to have healthy anger, but it took me a long time because there was none modeled. And I struggled a lot as a kid. I was diagnosed with depression in the 7th grade, which was not the correct diagnosis, but it was a diagnosis. And it really didn't matter because I didn't get any treatment. I did find my own treatment, though. Just a year after diagnosis, the summer after 8th grade, I found drugs and alcohol. And I managed to successfully self-medicate for a really long time. Drugs and alcohol worked for me for a long time. I kind of was using my own leveling out for what was eventually the correct diagnosis of bipolar disorder. I used a lot of speed and a lot of marijuana, and the 2 kind of worked well for me for a long time until it turned on me terribly. And I had my complete breakdown in my 30s, 20 years after I was diagnosed. And, that's actually, Holly, the average time between diagnosis and treatment is, I think the average is about 12 years. So 20 is not, too far off anyway. So that's kind of a synopsis, a quick picture, but I know we're going to get into a lot more detail.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you something. So when you were diagnosed in the 7th grade, how did they diagnose you back then?
Well, we had moved to a new city and
I'm curious.
do what?
I said I'm curious, how.
Yeah, well, I can tell you it was very interesting. I had been assaulted. I am a sexual assault survivor, and I had been through that horrible experience at the end of 6th grade. And we moved right after that to a new city. And thus, I started the 7th grade struggling from that experience and ending up in a new school and thus no friends. And I became very withdrawn. I had not been a withdrawn kid before that. I had been very outgoing, athletic, popular at school. And then I suddenly was not playing sports. I was very withdrawn. I lost a lot of weight and I started to have a series of really bad stomach issues. So my mom took me to the doctor and the doctor ran a lot of, and they all came back negative. Everything seemed fine physically. But during that time of running the test and waiting for the results, the doctor saw me continuing to deteriorate. And he told my mom I was depressed. So that's how
Oh,
the diagnosis came.
okay. So as time went on, so you then obviously you were self-medicating on
Mhm.
you know alcohol and drugs. So then I take it you went to college, got married, and
Mhm.
this continued, or alcohol and drugs continued. And then at
Mhm.
what point did you have to stop drinking before you got accurately diagnosed for your mental health first?
Well, it was quite the journey. I did go to college. I went to the University of Texas. I worked my way through school, and I was engaging in a lot of. I was using a lot of speed
Mhm.
to get me through this, working 30 hours a week and going to the University of Texas. And I met my husband my senior year, and he is 15 years older than I am, which was rather interesting. We didn't think we had that big an age gap till we had been dating for couple of weeks and asked each other how old we were. So we realized we had a whirlwind romance. We married 3 days shy of a year of our first year of dating. And I we got pregnant about 9 months after we got married, so we had a baby pretty fast, less than 2 years after we were married, and I stopped drinking and drugging the entire time I was pregnant with and nursing both of my children, and it was a very different and wonderful time in my life, and I pretty much laid off the drugs and the alcohol, drank with my husband, but not alcoholically for a couple of years, but I went right back to it. After I had my son, after I stopped nursing my son, I started using speed again because I wanted to lose the weight I'd gained with my son, and I just went right back into it. And
Mm.
that was when I was 28, and the drugs and alcohol escalated from 28 to 34. Those 6 years were really, really bad, and that's when I crashed at age 34. And I had an excellent psychiatrist. He was just amazing. He ended up being my psychiatrist for 31 years. But about a year after I started seeing him, he said, "If you don't get sober, I'm not going to see you anymore because you're wasting my time and your money and your time." So I went to outpatient treatment for the first time at age 5, I guess.
Mhm.
And that was the first time I really admitted I was an alcoholic, admitted it to myself. I didn't really think I had a drug problem, an alcohol problem. I mean, I knew I had a problem. I shouldn't say that. I knew I had a problem, but I didn't understand that I was an alcoholic addict until I went to outpatient treatment for the first time. I started trying to get sober in 1994
Mhm.
and did not get sober till 1999. So you asked which one came first. Did I have to get sober first or did I have to get stable with my mental health first? I think that's the catch with the dual diagnosis. Which one comes
Mhm.
first?
Mhm.
I don't know that it matters which one comes first because they both have to be treated at the same time. And I don't think I could have gotten I know I couldn't have gotten sober if my mental health wasn't stable, and I know my mental health couldn't have gotten stable if I hadn't gotten sober. And they went along a path together. And they both happened, sobriety and stability, pretty much at the same time. I had been working on my mental health the whole time I was relapsing. I relapsed, came in and out of sobriety for 5 years. But the whole time I was doing that, I was in therapy. I was in and out of the psychiatric hospitals. I had 7 psychiatric hospitalizations during that time, but I was working on both and they just kind of came together at some point. Does any of that make
So,
sense?
I mean, it makes sense to me. I guess in my case, for some, I guess sometimes they have to stop the drugs and the drinking in order for them to get properly diagnosed. Because I think sometimes, depending on what they're using, I think maybe sometimes it hinders the diagnosis
Yeah.
because it leads them into psychosis or whatever. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to put stuff out there, but I'm just saying it's probably best to stop whatever drug or, substance you're on so that.
No, I agree. No, I absolutely agree. I don't think I'm thinking about when I got correctly diagnosed. I think I was correctly diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was nearly sober, when my relapses had become like 6 or 8 weeks apart. And when I
Mhm.
did relapse, it was for 2 or 3 days because I got more and more sober. And I think we were able to identify that it definitely was a mood disorder, that it wasn't just depression, that it wasn't just anxiety, that it was definitely a mood disorder because I was sober enough. And he had been observing me, for a very long time at that point, for 3.5, 4 years. So you're right. Alcohol and drugs has to be out of the picture. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I, eh, I guess, in my case, I was diagnosed, for me, I was diagnosed prior to my drinking accelerating. Before my drinking accelerated to the point that I crossed the invisible line,
Hmm.
I was already diagnosed. And then after I crossed the invisible line and then got sober. And then there was another incident that happened. And then I was misdiagnosed several times, which I knew I didn't have what they were telling me that I had. It was
Yeah, I had that
circumstantial.
happen.
Yeah. So there's just, but I do believe that it helps if you are off of whatever substance so you can get properly diagnosed.
Yeah. Yeah, to get a really clear picture. And then I think getting the correct medication that stopped my manic episodes really confirmed the diagnosis. And I think sometimes the wrong medication confirms the diagnosis too. You've probably heard that if you have bipolar disorder and it's undiagnosed and you're given an antidepressant, it can cause mania, which sometimes brings the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, which is a crazy way, I think, to get diagnosed and a very painful way to get diagnosed. But I know that has happened, and at least it brings a diagnosis.
Did you have
So
to,
medication.
yeah, did you go through that process of trying out several medications in order to get your,
Oh my gosh, yes.
yeah, I did
Yeah,
too.
yeah, we went through many medications before we found the right one, but when we did find the right one, it was amazing. I mean, mania just stopped. But I started taking medications in, uh, 1993, and
Hmm.
my manic episodes didn't stop till 2002.
Really?
But I was on drugs and alcohol from
Yeah.
1993 until I got sober in, 99, and then my mania was an unusual mania, and so it manifested in a different way, and it was hard for us to get it under control. So, but we did, and I haven't had a
Well,
manic episode since 2002. It was 24 years ago, almost. It's almost 2026. So
that's
yeah.
nice. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really
Well,
happy about
so
that. I'm really happy about that. I haven't had a drink
yeah,
or a drug in 26 years either.
that's congratulations. That's awesome. I mean,
Thank you.
that's amazing. So, what is a relief or struggle when you were diagnosed and now know are dual diagnosed, that you were dual diagnosed?
Well, the relief that came from being diagnosed with bipolar disorder was that my symptoms finally made sense. And when we determined my diagnosis of bipolar disorder, not only did the symptoms make sense, but I felt like I finally had hope that we would find a medicine that would stop the mania. On the dual diagnosis part, I had known for a long time that I had a substance use disorder by the time we diagnosed me correctly because like I said, I was almost sober at that point. But the relief was also because I had never identified my behaviors as mania. I thought that was just my personality and that I would always live that way. And it was such a relief that the correct diagnosis of bipolar disorder let me know that I could find relief from the disordered life I had been living. So the correct diagnosis of dual disorder was a relief in many
Mhm.
ways.
So, in the program, we talk about unmanageability. So, what
Mhm.
was part of the unmanageability or also your mental health too? Like, was that like handling your mental health too in your unmanageability?
Oh, yeah. I was so sick. I mean, I was engaging in self-harm. I attempted suicide. I
Mhm.
was so isolated from my family. I missed my son's 3rd birthday party. I was not showing up for family events in general. I missed kids, sporting events, school activities. I withdrew from life in general. I was harming relationships. I got fired from an incredible job, a career I had worked so hard for. I was at the top of my game at one point and fired, 18 months later. Found curled up in a ball on the floor of the bathroom at the advertising agency where I was handling millions and millions of dollars of accounts. That was a dissociative episode. I mean, I was sick. I was really, really sick. My mental illness was unmanageable for a long time.
So, how now have you managed your dual diagnosis throughout the years?
Well, we have a saying and that you don't have to change anything, you have to change everything. And to manage my dual diagnosis, to manage it so that I can live a life in recovery, I had to change a lot about the way I had been living. I have to have and follow a daily wellness plan. That's how I manage my dual diagnosis, a daily wellness plan that I have to live every day. Don't live it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly and I never will, but I live my daily wellness plan well enough every day to have what is really a beautiful life now. I mean, I've had many setbacks in the 26 years I've been sober, and in the 23 of those years that I haven't had a manic episode or engaged in self-harm. I mean, in those years, I haven't been hospitalized, I haven't attempted suicide, I haven't harmed relationships, and that's, I would say, managing pretty well. I've had periods of depression that have lasted up to 2 months, but I've functioned during those periods of depression, and my really purposeful, productive life that's full of love and family and fun and laughter has thrived even through the difficult times. And I'd
Mhm.
say that's managing my dual diagnosis. So what is this wellness plan? How have I managed it? The most important thing I do is how I start my day. I start every day with quiet time of prayer and meditation, and that's the most important thing I do all day. Another overarching element of my wellness plan is that I have to manage my stress. Stress was the
Mhm.
precursor to my major breakdown. Before my breakdown, I was working 70-hour weeks and had done that for 7 years, and I think I know the stress tipped the scale to my breakdown. I mean, all of that unmanageability was going on, but I think it was the stress that tipped the scale. The other thing that I have to do is sleep properly. I am under doctor's orders to sleep 8 hours a night, and I'm pretty good at it. The other thing in relation to sleep that's really important and that my doctor really stresses I do is to sleep the same 8 hours a night. And that's because people with bipolar disorder have trouble regulating their circadian rhythms, and that's our body clock. I'm not quite as good at doing that as I am as getting those 8 hours. Same 8 hours is a goal, and I work on it, and I go for periods when I do it well for a long time, and then I'm in periods like right now where I'm not doing it well, and Holly, I can tell the difference. It's like I'm just off the beam, you know? I mean, when I
Mhm.
do the same 8 hours, I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders, you know what I mean?
Yep, I
Mm,
certainly do.
um,
I
so
yeah,
you do?
yes, because it's funny that you said that because my psychiatrist talks to me about my sleep and my circadian rhythm all the time, and right now, I'm I'm not I just took a 12-week class, and it was very stressful for me. I also have to manage my stress, and it was very stressful for me, and my sleep schedule is very off right now. And I can tell. So,
Yeah.
yes, I'm right there
Yeah,
with
you
you.
can I told you we'd be able to relate. Yeah.
I'm right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I know. So let's see what else in my wellness plan you can connect with. I guess the other thing that's really important is that I exercise. I exercise regularly. I'm a Pilates addict, but, at least I'm addicted to something good now, something healthy. I have to eat right, and well, let me put that better. I try to eat right, but, compared to what I used to put in my body, am I really gonna worry about dessert? So I kinda take all that with a grain of salt. I do try to eat right, and I do, for the most part. The other things in my wellness plan is that still after 26 years of sobriety, I go to 2 or so meetings a week. I sponsor women in I've worked with those same women. A couple of my sponsees have been with me for years, 16 years, 12 years. I mean, these long-term relationships in the fellowship, they are vital to my recovery. I talk to my sponsor every week. I've had the same sponsor for 26 years. I'm so blessed. And then service work is extremely important in my recovery, of service to my community through recovery related nonprofit organizations. Family is everything to me. I've been married for 42 years. to this incredible guy who didn't abandon me through these really tough times he and I weathered. I have 5 grandchildren. They are the light of my life. I just really find connection and have my soul fed through family. In general, I have to stay connected to people, family, friends. Isolation can kill, and isolation is could be deadly for me. So that's a
Mhm.
lot of my wellness plan. There's more, but I think you get the gist.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Except the exercise. I probably need to improve on that one, but maybe I can. I've tried. I've tried many different things. I've tried, but I haven't found one that I like yet. So I don't know. Maybe next year we'll see. So what can you share about like tips or resources or tools that were particularly helpful to you during your recovery?
Well, like what?
Like what was helpful to you, or what did you find helpful on your journey?
Well, getting sober, we talked about that. Getting sober was extremely important to me and my path, but that is not the only path. There are
Mhm.
so many different resources for helping to achieve sobriety, but it's just imperative to find the one that works for your own temperament, your own goals. There are resources for getting sober from many different angles. But the most important thing I think everyone drilled into me, and the most important thing that I had to accept was that I could not get sober on my own. And that's my experience, and that's what I can share is what I know is that I couldn't have gotten sober on my own. That's for sure. It took a community for me. And I think it's also one of the things that really helped me in my struggle for recovery was figuring out that I wasn't alone in my mental health struggles. Finding a community of people, whether it was through hospitalization or through service work, finding a community of people who understood my mental health struggles and supported me was vital. I know that having that community was one of the things that brought me into recovery, knowing that I wasn't alone and helping to get rid of some of that stigma just by knowing I could talk about it somewhere. But it doesn't really even have to be a huge community, just one family member or one friend, just having someone to talk to, someone who understands, someone who will listen. I just know I could not have gotten better if I didn't have people in my life who supported me.
Mhm. Kind of want to go back to something that you mentioned when you were talking about your family and your brothers and sisters. You were talking about rage and anger. Did And you were talking about healthy anger. Did you find that you stuffed a lot of anger back then, and that's what you drank and used over? Is that what you found in recovery, that that's what you were drinking and using over, and that's what helped you in recovery work on, was your anger?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we drink to change the way we feel.
Mhm.
I not only needed to change the way I felt, but first I had to get in touch with the way I felt in order to change it. I mean, I couldn't even identify my feelings. I remember being in a group therapy session at the trauma hospital I was in, and after I shared one time, the therapist said, asked me if I was open to feedback, and I said, "Sure." And a couple of the people's feedback uh, commented on, wow, said things like, "Wow, you are so angry. Wow, I've never seen such anger like that." And I looked at him and said, "I'm not angry. What are you talking about? I'm not angry at all." I mean, I had no concept of how to identify anger, even when other people were obviously validating my anger. Anyway, but yes, getting sober, at first I experienced all the emotions because I could suddenly feel. I could feel the good stuff, I could feel the bad stuff, I could feel all that stuff, and then in therapy, I could work on it once I was sober, and then I
Yeah.
could get better.
Yeah. It's funny what you don't realize you're drinking down because you're escaping that stuff. And then once you're not anymore, you honestly don't know what you're feeling anymore. And it's kind of strange. So, and then you're sitting there in the beginning, you're sitting there going, I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. But then,
Right.
you know, it's the first year, it's just like a roller coaster, and it's all over the place. So,
Yeah, it is. I mean, my response as a kid was to become perfect.
oh God.
Instead of responding to anything, I just kind of became an automatron. I think that's the
Yeah.
word, automatron, because then I could fly under the radar and everybody else was, doing a bunch of bad stuff and getting into trouble and I became perfect. Straight A's, excellent, great athlete, took care of my brother, did my chores, just made lunch for my mom when she was coming home from finals. I mean, I was just the perfect kid
Oh, yeah.
and continued to overachieve all the way through, all the way through college, so
Yeah. That's why I drank actually, was to be perfect. And
mhm,
I could never hit it.
mhm,
Never. I couldn't quite get there. It's
mhm.
so how do you advocate for yourself in the healthcare system? How do you advocate for yourself in dealing with dual diagnosis?
I thought about that. I think the most challenging part of advocating for myself in relation to having a dual diagnosis is having medical doctors who don't understand psychiatric medications. And here's an example. One of my medications, the one I talked about that stopped my manic episodes cold and
Mhm,
that I have no desire to get off of because it keeps my manic episodes at bay, that
mhm,
medication has the possibility of causing kidney stones. So I have a few kidney stones, but they're super small. They're so small they can't even be broken up with ultrasound, which we would do if they got larger. But
mhm,
they're not a health threat, just not a health threat at all. So when these were discovered, I mentioned to my urologist that the kidney stones could be a side effect of one of my psychiatric meds. And he
mhm.
said, "Well, why don't you just get off of them?" And so I said, "Well, because they keep my mania at bay, and mania could kill me, but these kidney stones won't." And he looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, ha, like I was crazy, but seriously, I run into this type of ignorance all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, and then another way I have advocated for myself in the healthcare system is that I had to get a new general practitioner. I guess she's been my practitioner now for 10 or 12 years, but the one I'd had before that had also been my general practitioner for 10 or 12 years, and he retired. So I had a new doctor, and the first time I met her, told her, "I have a dual diagnosis. I'm in long-term recovery. I take psychiatric medications." I gave her a bit of my history, and I told her that if we were going to work together, she needed to know the importance of mental health in every decision we make. And we've had an incredible relationship for, like I said, 10 or 12 years now. She's amazing, and we work as a team.
It's great. It's good to have a supportive team, actually. If you have
Mhm,
all of your doctors on board,
mhm,
it's very helpful, and they
mhm,
know, eh, the whole story.
mhm.
It's very helpful, very supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. Just recently, I ran into another situation, and this doctor was great. It was the same drug that I take. I had this weird thing going on with my eyes, and I still do, but it's she's not worried about it either. But when she said, this could be happening as a result of the same drug, it's a little thing with flashing lights, and I teared up immediately. It was like, oh no, 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 don't be messing with this drug. And she looked at me and she said, well, tell me why you take this. She just saw it on my chart, because she was looking at everything I take because she's good and she wanted to know all my background. So she was looking at my drugs and she said, well, tell me what you take this for. She said, for seizures, because it's a drug you can take for seizures. And I said, no, I take it for a mood disorder. And she saw that I was crying and she said, wait a minute. She said, don't think about having to get off of it. She said, you're okay. Keep taking it. We'll monitor your eyes. I think you're fine. Come back in a month. We'll look at it. I mean, she got it. So
Yeah,
some doctors get it. She was great.
yeah. It's very important. I know if mine right
Mhm,
now, my psychiatrist gets it, and she knows I'm serious about mine too. But she also knows I don't play with mine either. And she'll ask me straight up, "Are you good on this dosage?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I don't need to mess with mine. I'm good." So it's really, yeah, I agree. I think it's really good to have a good relationship with your your doctor or psychiatrist, very open, honest relationship with them. So, what message would you like to share with those who are just beginning a journey of either recovery or mental health or both or dual diagnosis?
I think when I was just beginning my journey, I would have liked someone to tell me that it's possible to have a full, meaningful, purposeful, productive life with a dual diagnosis. And now I can say that to others because I'm proof of that. I mean, I had no idea I would have this life when I was drinking, drugging, diagnosed with a mood disorder, anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, I have quite a few diagnoses, but you know what? It's for me, it's about the symptoms, treating the symptoms, targeting the ones I want to work on. But I am dual diagnosed and I do have a purposeful, full, meaningful, productive life. So I think what I want to share, because this is what I wish someone had shared with me, hang on to that hope for yourself and work for it.
Good. Yeah, I think so. And especially don't stay in fear.
Mm.
Just, it can get, and, try not to stay in fear. And especially, no, and try to, get out in the community and talk to your doctors and, you know, put yourself out there so you can get help, I think.
Yeah, all the things I put in my wellness plan, try to incorporate health into your life. Because
Yeah.
once I started just getting out and walking around the block or, trying to eat better and all of those things, my psychiatrist asks me, well, he's retired. I have a new person, and she's great too. She's wonderful. But he asked me at every appointment, how's your exercise? How's your sleep? How's your diet? I mean, he was holistic. And he really helped me with that from the very beginning about trying to improve those things.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but it seems like the more I isolate, the more my fear starts like compounding. So I need to be out. So, I think that how many, this is kind of a side question, but how of the five of the 5 degrees your mom had, what were they? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, 1950, only 5% of American women had an undergraduate degree. But in 1953, my mother had an undergraduate in fashion merchandising and and a graduate degree in social work. So
Oh
she
my
already
God.
had an undergraduate and a graduate in 1953 with that statistic of only 5% of American women having any degree. So those were her first two. And then she got a master's in education in the 70s, no, in the 60s. In the 60s, she got a master's in education. And then in the 70s, she got what was called a specialist in education, because in the state of Louisiana, they didn't give a PhD in education at that time. So that was their equivalent of a PhD. And then she went on in the 80s to get her PhD in education from the University of Colorado at Greeley while she was living in New Orleans. The kids were gone. Brother was at boarding school, and I was already off at college. I left for college in 77. She went off in 78 and went to college. She went back to college basically and went to Greeley and got her PhD. So yeah, I do remember them all. Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
Because
I had to
I'm
ask.
up there now. That was a long time ago. I mean, it was a long time ago.
I had to ask because I was like, wow, 5 degrees? Like,
Hmm.
it's amazing. But
It was her
very,
avoidance. It's her avoidance to not have to be a mother, just going and getting degrees.
yeah, that's amazing. Well, I mean, good for her. So, but
Yeah,
anyway,
good for
well,
her.
yeah,
And
I
she did a
mean,
lot of amazing things. She really did. She started the first Head Start uh, first Head Start program in the country, which is the early start program,
right.
pre-K.
Yep,
She did the pilot program. She did some cool stuff. She really did.
that's cool. Very nice. Very nice. Well, that's amazing. Well, is there anything that you want to add, Valerie? I want to give you the opportunity to, put whatever, your personal addition on it that you want to add.
I think the part about family is really important to me. My husband did one of the most important things for my recovery, attempted suicide and went into the hospital for the seventh time. And he decided I couldn't come home and was not abandoning me. He was protecting himself and our children and told me I had to go get sober and mentally stable. And I went to live in a sober house. I'd been married for 13 years. I was 36 years old and I had 2 kids, and I found myself living in a sober house. And it was probably the hardest thing that man had ever done in his whole life, to tell his wife she had to go away. But it was my turning point. It was my turning
Wow.
point, and I'll be forever grateful to him. And if somebody wants to see a clear picture of what a family goes through in a mental health crisis, there's 2 episodes on my podcast where my husband and my sister, who were my primary caregivers when I was sick and my primary supporters as I recovered and now as I thrive in recovery, they're the guests on 2 episodes and talk about their journey with me. And I think it's really powerful for people, both people living with the mental health condition and for the people who love and support them. I think it's really powerful to hear the gut-wrenching truth about living through surviving a mental health crisis.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Because it's not
So
fun.
we're available everywhere, but you can go to our website, mentalhealthhopeandrecovery.com, and access all of our episodes there, or Apple,
Yes.
Spotify, Google, Pandora,
Yep.
Amazon, all of them.
And I will put Valerie's link in the episode description for everyone to get there so that we can point you to her and Helen's podcast. And we'd love to have you go there and take a listen and
But
listen to.
I'm not ending on promotion to promote my podcast. I'm really ending on the importance of family in those 2 episodes, because I don't think we talk enough about the importance of family in recovery. But my husband truly was my turning point, and not being an enabler must have been incredibly hard for him. And like I said, it was my turning point, and I'm forever grateful for that unbelievably hard thing he did.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Holley, for this opportunity. And I know you have 10 questions.
Yes, I do. We end the podcast with 10 questions, and it's kind of a fun way to end the podcast. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So, first question: what skill would you like to ultimately master and why?
Calligraphy, because I think it's a beautiful art form that can be used to enhance letter writing, enhance people's enjoyment of things they receive in the mail. And it would make me happy to have some sort of hand skill, because I can't draw, I can't cook, I can't weave, I can't crochet, I can't do anything. And I'd like to have one mastery of a hand skill.
You and me both. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
It's not much of a goal, just calligraphy. I mean, come on. I'm not trying to master cooking or anything amazing like that.
Okay. Next question: what has been the highlight of your life thus far and why?
Family. The fact that I have managed to stay married, raise 2 children, be Nana to 5 grandchildren. If I wasn't clean and sober and mentally stable, I would not have been allowed to be at those grandchildren's birth. I would not be allowed to take care of them. I wouldn't be allowed to be anywhere near them if I was still sick and drinking and drugging. So family is the highlight of my life.
Yeah. All right. All right. Third question: what risk have you not taken that you would still like to take, and why haven't you?
Well, that's a hard one. What risk have I not taken? That's a really hard question, Holley. I have to think about that. I guess I have not always been completely honest about my emotions with everybody. And that's a risk that I don't take out of fear of not being accepted, fear of backlash from others when I don't like conflict. And you know what? I don't know if that's a risk I'll ever take. I don't know if I'll ever have the confidence and the fortitude to do that.
Fair enough. I can understand that. I'm with you there. Fair enough. Okay. Do you have any nicknames or pet names?
I do. My husband calls me Sweet Baboo because when we were dating, the Charlie Brown comics, Lucy was in love with Linus, and she would write him notes. And Linus wanted nothing to do with Lucy, but she would write him notes, and he would sign them Sweet Baboo. She would sign them Sweet Baboo, and so he calls me Sweet Baboo from when we were dating.
Gosh, that's so cute. Oh, all right. What person, living, dead, or a character do you most relate to, and why?
Relate to or want to be like? Relate
Whatever.
to.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of funny. The first person who came to mind is my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law died in 2015. She was an amazing woman, accomplished, poised, beautiful, smart, funny, healthy, active, had a full life till she died like 10 days short of her 94th birthday. Talented. She was a painter. She did have good skills with her hands. Can't relate to that. But it's funny, she was the first person who came to mind, but she was. So I guess Beryl Buckley Milburn was the first person who came to mind that I relate to. But mainly it's admire, not really relate, just admired so much.
Well, that's my next question. My next question is, who do you admire and why?
There are many other people. I admire my sponsor tremendously. I want to be like her because her experience, I admire my sponsor tremendously. She's led me through many difficult times and has helped me grow and become the woman I am today. And I am forever grateful to her.
Yeah, I can understand that. All right. Okay, this is a trick question, by the way. What is your biggest mistake or regret and why? And I say that because usually our mistakes end up being learning opportunities,
My biggest mistake and regret. Well, I'll tell you a funny story about my mother-in-law. She said her biggest regret was never having dyed her hair. She went completely white in her 20s and she never dyed her hair. And when she told me that, I said, well, you have lived a really good life if that's your biggest regret. My biggest regret. Oh, I know what one of my really big regrets was not getting my master's degree. I wish I'd gone on and gotten another degree.
And
yeah, I mean, that's a very shallow regret.
I don't think so. But if I'm not mistaken, weren't you a teacher as well? You also were a teacher?
Yes, I had my first career in advertising, marketing, and public relations, and then I had my crash, and obviously trashed that career. And it's a very small world, and once you kind of lose your reputation in that field, in this city anyway, I don't think I could have gotten hired anywhere else. I couldn't have done it anymore. I changed. I needed an easier, different path, and I could get my teaching certificate in what was called alternative certification, meaning if you have worked in your field that you have your degree in for 5 years, you can get certified in that field. So I got certified in journalism because I have a journalism degree and I had used my degree for 5 years. So yes, I became a teacher, but I didn't go back and get another college degree. I got alternative certification. So no, I never got a second degree.
What would you have gotten your master's in if you would have gone for your master's?
I wanted my MBA. I wanted an MBA.
Okay.
But my son has his MBA from Wharton. So, the next generation did it.
Yeah. All right. So what is your favorite?
Big time.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said he did it big time. What is my favorite what?
What is your favorite curse word?
You really want me to say it?
Yeah. You're welcome to say it.
It's MF.
Motherfucker?
Motherfucker.
Okay, good. Just go right in on.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
the best you're going to get out of me. I just would never say that in many situations, but that's my favorite curse word. And my husband is such a nice guy. You know what his favorite is?
What?
Sorry ass. I mean, like, come on, buddy. I know you're a really nice guy, but is that the best you can do? But sorry ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I can, like I tell everybody on this podcast, I can morph the F word into many things.
Mhm.
That's so bad in
Mhm.
mine. I'm a
Yeah, me
sailor.
too.
Yeah. So not a problem. Okay. So this is kind of my personal favorite. I like this question because in recovery and mental health, it kind of shows us that we all come from different backgrounds, but we at the same time we all deal with this stuff too. So, do you by any chance know what your ethnicity or your heritage is? Like I'm
Yeah, I do. Polish on my mother's side, Scotch, Irish, and English on my father's side.
Oh, cool. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. All right. Last question. What would you hope your higher power, God, the universe, the creator, would say to you when you pass or transition or die?
Well done.
All right. Well, that's it. And listen, Valerie, thank you for spending so much time with me and sharing your story and being so vulnerable because mental health and talking about mental health and our struggles and sometimes our path and the things we've gone through, like, trying to take our own lives and that kind of stuff. I've done that too. It's not easy. So I appreciate your
No.
vulnerability.
No,
So
you're
thank you.
welcome. Thank you for having me on. I think it's really important we talk about these things.
Yes, I do too. And listen, it was an honor to have you. So thank you so much for saying yes. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let's go grab a coffee soon, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Let's do it. All right,
Okay.
Liz.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please stay tuned for the next episode. Take care.